Hi everyone! Today we're going to be starting on our project, the next project. It's going to have to do with negative space, positive space, and with texture. We'll be talking a little bit about those. What I need for you to do for this project is you need to find an object with a unique shape to start with. This was on the top of my wedding cake when I got married. But you can see it kind of has an interesting shape to it. You'll need a white piece of paper, and you'll need not a very thick paper. So if you've got like regular, like a sketch pad with drawing paper or something, it doesn't need to be that. It's just like a printer paper, or if all you have at home is like a notebook with lines on it, you can use that too. I've got a clipboard. You may not have a clipboard at home, but I'd suggest if you can find something flat, I mean, even like a cookie pan or a hardcover book, or something that has a smooth flat surface. What we're going to do is we're going to actually cast a shadow from this object onto your paper. So you're going to put your object on your paper and try to find like the best shadow, the best direction that you can. Depending on the time of day, where the sun is, you'll probably want to rotate your paper around just a little bit to find the best angle where you're casting the most creative looking shadow. So I kind of like this here. I think on the shadow you can tell what it is. You can tell it kind of looks like to me it looks like a fairy tale, like a prince and a princess dancing or something. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace that shadow onto my paper. So yeah, you're using a pencil. I don't know what kind of coloring materials you have at home, but if you don't have crayons for this next part, you could use pencils, colored pencils. But I would recommend crayons if you have crayons. Crayons will work the best when we get to the part where we're going to actually do the background. And I told you we're going to be talking about space. Artists use space in their artworks. Space would refer to the area on your paper. So right now, the positive space is the area on the paper that's taken up by the object that you're creating. So in this picture, the shadow is actually the positive space, and then the negative space is going to be all the area around the shadow. I've got my shadow drawn out here. The shadow part is going to remain white on your paper. You're not going to add color or anything where the shadow is. That's going to remain white. We're going to be adding the color around the shadow. So the space here, the space all around here. But I'm going to break up these areas into smaller areas. And then I'm just going to draw some lines from the shadow to the edge of the paper. Just kind of dividing up the page a little bit around the shadow. And I'm going to stop right here because I need to go inside and get my crayons, and I'll meet you back for the next part. So, like I said, this next part, I would recommend using crayons. You can use colored pencils. I would not recommend markers because I don't think markers will work very well with this. Crayons will be the best if you have them. They do not need to be a brand new box. You can use any old crayons. Actually, ones without the wrappers would probably work good because you can just use the side to do the rubbing. So I'm gonna take just pick a color. I'm gonna start with a red, and I am looking for items with different textures. Texture is the way something feels. So if you look at this tree here, you can see that the bark has this rough texture to it. Okay, so I'm going to put my paper on the bark of the tree. And now I'm going to just, in one of these sections that I've created, I'm going to rub the crayon, I'm going to color in that section with the bark of the tree beneath it. And hopefully we'll end up seeing the texture of the tree come through. That's why I said maybe if you have old crayons that don't have the paper on them anymore, they will work nicely because you can just rub like the side of the crayon rather than the tip here. Let's see what other textures that we can find. You can look all around your house, inside and out. You'll find all kinds of different textures. I mean, even the side of your house has a texture to it usually. You might have a brick house. You might have, I mean, some of you might live in a hotel or an apartment, but you can, you know, go outside as long as please do not color on the walls. I'm sure your parents will not appreciate that. So you're not actually coloring on the walls, you're coloring on your paper. You may find some interesting textures in your house. Like we put together this puzzle, and let me see what the puzzle piece is now, what kind of texture those will create. While you're coloring these textures, you want to make sure that your paper doesn't move, because if your paper moves, it's going to mess up the print that's coming out here. Puzzles showing really cool texture. Look at that. Look around your house. You can find some creative textures that maybe you've even created, like, you know, ironed together perler beads we can put under here, and create this texture here. Trying really hard not to color over where I have the shadow drawn out, because we want the shadow to remain white. Okay, I've got some more textures here. I've got just some sticks put all together. Maybe we can, let me see what colors, since we've already done all the colors of the rainbow, let's pick other colors. If you're using something like a colored pencil or something with a very sharp point, you need to be careful that you're not using the tip of it so that you're making holes in your paper. That's why crayons work better than like colored pencils, because crayons shouldn't puncture holes. I'm sure some of you are able to puncture holes with it, but it shouldn't. It doesn't take much pressure when you're coloring. You don't need to press very hard. You never know where you're going to find different and unique textures within your house. Like, for instance, this basketball, just tiny basketball, but it has its own unique texture to it. So, you know, you can use that to color. The next couple of textures, unfortunately, didn't get on video. It just got a picture of it. But I used this one as a stencil that I used underneath the paper to create a texture. The last texture I used was the lid to a game. And this is the final piece with all my textures. I used a black crayon to outline everything. It looks really nice.